One movie had a huge impact on Marvel, which was on the verge of bankruptcy. Marvel took a big risk by investing $180 million in it. Surprisingly, once released, it got countless fans globally and earned $580 million at the box office. That movie was Iron Man in 2008, which started the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, let's look at the story of Tony Stark. He was a prodigy since young. At 4, he made a circuit board. At 6, he built an engine. And at 17, he graduated with honors from MIT. After his father's death, he not only inherited Stark Industries, but also changed the weapons industry. However, like many exceptional people, Tony had some hobbies too. He was a playboy with lots of girlfriends. Fortunately, his capable assistant Pepper Potts could handle the troublesome matters for him.
You are supposed to be halfway around the world right now.
How'd she take it?
Like a champ.
At a certain moment, Tony was sitting in a military vehicle, confident, ready to show the troops Stark Industries' latest super missile.
The Jericho.
Later, while being escorted by the military to the airport, an accident happened halfway. The convoy was attacked by terrorists, and all the accompanying soldiers were killed. Just when Tony was about to call for help, his own rocket came with great power and the explosion knocked him out. When he woke up, he was confused, thinking he had seen God. He noticed a strange man next to him with a magnet-like device on his chest. The man was Yinzen, who was also captured. He told Tony that the device was for extracting the shrapnel in his body. Before he could finish explaining, a group of young militants rushed in, demanding Tony to build them missiles. And Tony refused, which led to some not-so-nice treatment from them.
I refuse.
In order to survive, Tony reluctantly agreed, but he already had a plan to escape. He gathered all the elements inside the missile and, with his genius hands, crafted a small arc reactor. Tony took out a blueprint. He planned to build a suit of armor. The two men, like-minded, immediately got to work, quickly crafting some parts with their specialized knowledge. The young sidekick couldn't figure out what was going on, but the seasoned bald man noticed something was off. He confronted Tony, asking why he was deceiving him, and threatened him using Yinzen as leverage. He warned them not to pull any tricks and demanded that the missile be completed that night, or they would both die. Tony hastened his work, and after a night of forging, the suit was finally complete. At this point, the bald man noticed on the surveillance that Tony was missing, so he quickly sent his men to check. But just as the door opened, both men were immediately sent to meet their maker. The bald man was left stunned. However, Tony still needed more time to activate the suit. To buy time, Yinzen, holding an AK, charged out but was quickly surrounded by a group of men. Meanwhile, the suit was finally ready, and what stood before them was the prototype of Iron Man Mark I. Although it was made from regular steel, it handled the enemy's barrage of bullets with ease. A rocket hit Tony, but he retaliated in kind. After taking care of the enemies, Tony, seeing that Yinzen had died trying to save him, was filled with anger and walked out of the cave. Even facing a hail of bullets, he calmly said, "It doesn't matter," and unleashed flames at temperatures over 2,000 degrees.
My turn.
Tony not only eliminated all the enemies, but also destroyed all the weapons there. With a violent explosion, Tony flew off dramatically in the suit, but being a first-time pilot, he quickly ran out of fuel and crashed heavily into the desert, with Mark I falling apart into pieces. Later, Tony was rescued by Rhodes. This experience made Tony realize that the weapons he had produced had not only failed to protect the people, but had almost sent him to meet God. Moreover, he had become an accomplice to the militants. So, Tony announced at a press conference that Stark Industries would close its weapons manufacturing division.
Effective immediately, I am shutting down the weapons manufacturing division of Stark International.
Stan found Tony and thought he had gone mad. A weapons company not making weapons? What, are we going to make baby bottles? But Tony was resolute, and no matter how much Stan tried to persuade him, could not change his mind. He returned home and focused all his efforts on developing the arc reactor. Soon, the latest version of the reactor was born. Tony asked Pepper to install the arc reactor into his chest. When Pepper placed her hand on his chest, she accidentally touched a wire which startled her.
Okay, you're gonna attach that to the base plate and make sure you...
Tony then told Pepper to throw away the old reactor. However, Pepper had her own idea. She engraved a message on the old reactor and gave it to Tony. This small gesture would later become an important part of the story. Meanwhile, Tony, with the help of a IJARV-IS, was developing the Iron Man suit, Mark II. Soon they completed the legs, and during testing, Tony was able to successfully lift off. Not long after, the arms were also completed, but the power was overwhelming.
It's completely harmless.
After continuous testing and modifications, Tony put on the limbs of Mark II and successfully flew in the parking lot. He then put on the full Mark II suit. Excited, he soared into the sky. However, when he reached 10,000 meters, the suit began to ice over and the flight stopped. In a critical moment, Tony quickly activated the de-icing system and restarted the suit. He was completely enamored with the feeling of piloting the suit, and this was the happiest Tony had ever been. After returning home, Tony upgraded Mark II by replacing the material with a titanium-aluminum alloy used in satellites, making the suit lighter and stronger. The final touch was to give the suit a color Tony liked. With JARV's help, Mark II got a new exterior. Meanwhile, the bald man found the remains of Mark I in the desert and brought them back for study. At a charity event, Tony learned that someone in his company was selling weapons to militants. He suspected there was a mole within his company and discovered that it was Stan, who had been secretly selling weapons behind Tony's back. Upon returning home, Tony saw a report on TV about a terrorist uprising in Afghanistan, which ignited his anger. He decided that those responsible would have to pay the price. Tony headed to the lab and donned the latest Mark II suit. When Tony put on this suit, it was a moment that any Marvel fan would find thrilling.